Across the world, massive stone monuments rise from the landscape with no clear instructions left behind. Stonehenge, Ggantija, Nilurallu, and Puma Punku were built by ancient hands using methods that still confuse modern engineers. Separated by oceans and cultures, they share one unsettling question: how did people with simple tools create structures that still challenge our understanding today? Stonehenge, England. Stonehenge is one of those places you think you already understand until you actually stop and picture what it must have been like when it was first built. Long before tourists, fences, or guidebooks, this was an open stretch of land on the Salisbury Plain. Wind moved freely across the grass. The sky felt bigger than it does anywhere else. And in the middle of that open space, people began shaping something that would outlast every culture that followed them. The story of Stonehenge does not begin with the stones we see today. Around 3000 BCE, the area was first used as a circular earthwork, a wide ditch dug with basic tools made from antler and stone. Even that early version took real effort. Digging chalk soil by hand is slow, tiring work. The people who did it were not wandering aimlessly. They had a plan, and more importantly, they had a reason strong enough to bring many people together for a shared task. Over time, the site changed. Timber posts were added and removed. Fires were lit. Human remains were buried nearby. This place slowly became special, set apart from everyday life. By the time the first stones arrived, Stonehenge was already meaningful. The stones did not create the importance of the site, they marked it. The largest stones, known as sarsens, came from about 15 miles away. Each one weighed as much as a large truck. Without wheels, metal tools, or written plans, these stones were dragged, lifted, and set upright with surprising accuracy. The tops were shaped to hold horizontal stones in place, using joints similar to early woodworking. That detail alone tells us this was careful work. These were not rough builders guessing their way through the process. They understood balance, weight, and structure through experience passed down over generations. Then there are the blue stones. These smaller stones came from the Prehistoric Hills in Wales, over 150 miles away. That distance is not easy even today. People argue about how the stones were moved. Some think they were rolled on logs. Others think they were carried by boat along rivers and coastlines. There is even debate over whether glaciers moved them part of the way. No matter which idea is closest to the truth, one thing is clear: bringing those stones to Stonehenge was not simple, and it was not necessary unless they mattered deeply. Why bring stones from so far away when local stone was available? One idea is that the blue stones held special meaning, perhaps tied to healing or ancestry. Some skeletons found near Stonehenge show signs of injury or illness, and chemical tests suggest those people came from faraway regions. That has led to the idea that Stonehenge may have been a place people traveled to for help, hope, or ritual care. Not a hospital in the modern sense, but a place where belief and meaning mattered as much as physical treatment. The alignment of Stonehenge adds another layer to its purpose. The stones line up with the rising sun at the summer solstice and the setting sun at the winter solstice. These moments mark the longest and shortest days of the year. For farming societies, these points were crucial. They shaped planting, harvesting, and survival. But this alignment feels more symbolic than practical. You do not need giant stones to track the sun. This was about marking time in a way that felt permanent and powerful. Stonehenge was not alone. It was part of a much larger landscape filled with paths, burial mounds, and other circles. Nearby places like Durrington Walls appear to have been busy settlements, especially during winter. Wood structures there suggest life, warmth, and activity. Stonehenge, built of cold rock, may have represented the opposite, a place for ancestors, spirits, and memory. The journey between these spaces could have reflected the movement between life and death. What often gets missed is how long this site was worked on. Stonehenge was built, changed, and adjusted over roughly 1,400 years. That means no single group saw the finished version we know today. Each generation inherited something incomplete and chose to continue it. That level of long-term thinking is rare even now. It suggests a shared belief system strong enough to survive changes in leadership, climate, and culture. Standing near Stonehenge today, it is easy to forget how alive this place once was. We see stones that look quiet and still, but once there were fires, voices, movement, and ceremony. The stones were not just objects. They were part of a story people believed in deeply. Today, Stonehenge is carefully managed. Paths keep visitors at a distance. Barriers protect the stones from damage. On one hand, this preservation is necessary. Millions of people visit each year, and the site would not survive unrestricted access. On the other hand, the distance can feel disappointing. You cannot touch the stones unless you visit during special access hours. For some, that makes the experience feel controlled and less personal. There are positives to the modern condition of Stonehenge. The surrounding land has been restored, with fewer roads cutting through the landscape than in the past. This makes it easier to imagine how the area once looked wide and open. The visitor center is set back, which helps keep the immediate area around the stones quieter than it used to be. Information is clearer, and the site is treated with respect rather than spectacle. But there are negatives too. The presence of crowds can break the sense of mystery, especially during peak seasons. Cameras, phones, and noise make it harder to feel connected to the past. Some people leave feeling underwhelmed because the stones appear smaller than expected from photos. Others struggle with the idea that such an ancient and powerful place is now part of a ticketed experience. My own view sits somewhere in the middle. Stonehenge does not need to explain itself to be meaningful. It is not a puzzle that needs solving to be valuable. Its power comes from the fact that people invested effort, belief, and time into something that went far beyond daily survival. At the same time, it is fair to admit that modern access can feel limited and distant. That tension between protection and connection is hard to balance. What matters is that Stonehenge still stands. Despite thousands of years of weather, farming, and human change, it remains in place. It continues to mark time, even if we no longer depend on it to do so. It reminds us that ancient people were not simple or primitive. They were planners, builders, and thinkers who cared deeply about meaning. The present situation at Stonehenge is a mix of respect and restriction. The site is stable and well protected, which is a positive. The wider landscape is quieter and more thoughtfully managed than it once was. At the same time, the experience can feel brief and distant, shaped by crowds and rules. Stonehenge today is no longer a living ritual space, but it is still a powerful reminder of human effort, belief, and patience, standing quietly as the sun continues to rise and set exactly as it has for thousands of years. Ggantija Temples, Malta. The Ggantija Temples sit on a quiet hill on the island of Gozo, and the first feeling they give you is disbelief. Not because they are flashy or dramatic, but because they should not be there at all, at least not according to what we often assume about ancient people. These temples were already ancient when the pyramids of Egypt were still ideas waiting to be formed, long before metal tools, long before writing. People came to this rocky place and raised stones so large that even today they feel heavy just to look at. The name Ggantija comes from the Maltese word for giants, and it makes sense once you stand in front of the walls. Some of the stones are taller than a grown adult and wider than a small car. Local legends once said that a giant woman carried these stones on her shoulders while holding a child in one arm. That story may sound simple, but it shows something important. Even people who lived much later could not imagine ordinary humans building something like this. The temples were built around 3600 BCE. At that time, Malta was home to small farming communities. These people grew crops, raised animals, and lived close to the land. Yet they also invested huge amounts of time and energy into building sacred places. Ggantija is made of two main temples, joined by a shared outer wall. From above, the layout looks rounded and flowing, almost like a living shape instead of a sharp, rigid plan. As you move through the ruins, the design starts to feel intentional rather than random. Narrow entrances open into wider spaces. Curved walls guide movement forward. Some rooms feel more enclosed, others more open. This was not just about stacking stones. It was about creating an experience. The builders understood how space affects people, even if they never wrote those ideas down. One of the biggest questions is how these stones were moved and lifted. There is no evidence of wheels or metal tools. Most likely, the builders used wooden rollers, ropes, and simple stone tools. They may have used round stones as ball bearings to slide the massive blocks into place. Whatever the method, it required coordination, strength, and planning. This was not the work of a few individuals. It was a community effort that probably took years. Inside the temples, archaeologists found animal bones, stone altars, and signs of repeated use. This suggests rituals involving food, offerings, and gatherings. These were not empty monuments meant only to be seen. They were meant to be used. People came here again and again, possibly marking seasons, life events, or spiritual beliefs tied to fertility and renewal. Some carvings and stone shapes found at Maltese temples are linked to the idea of a mother figure or earth spirit. While we cannot be certain, The focus on rounded shapes and enclosed spaces does suggest a connection to birth, growth, and cycles of life. Ggantija may have been a place where people asked for good harvests, healthy children, or balance between the natural and spiritual worlds. What makes the story even more mysterious is how suddenly this culture seems to have ended. After centuries of temple building across Malta and Gozo, the tradition stopped. The temples were abandoned. The people who built them disappeared, or at least changed so completely that their way of life did not continue. There is no clear sign of war or destruction. The stones were left standing, slowly weathering under the sun and rain. Later cultures arrived on the islands, but none built anything like Ggantija again. The knowledge, beliefs, and skills that created these temples were not passed on. That loss is part of what gives the site its quiet power. You are not just looking at ancient stones, you are looking at the remains of a world that ended without explanation. Walking through Ggantija today, there is a strong sense of calm. The curved walls soften sound. The limestone holds warmth from the sun. Even with other visitors around, the place does not feel crowded. It feels patient, as if it has learned how to wait. At the same time, the damage of time is easy to see. Limestone is a soft stone. Wind, rain, and heat have worn down edges that were once sharp. Some stones lean slightly now, supported by modern conservation work. This support keeps the structure safe, but it also reminds you that nothing lasts forever, not even stone. There are clear positives in how Ggantija is treated today. The site is protected and carefully managed. Visitors are guided along paths that prevent damage. Information signs explain the basics without overwhelming you. Compared to more famous ancient sites, Ggantija feels peaceful and respectful. You can take your time, you can stand quietly and think. But there are also negatives. You cannot touch most of the stones. Barriers keep you at a distance, which can make the experience feel less personal. Some people may leave feeling they wanted more freedom to explore. Others may feel the site is smaller than expected after seeing dramatic photos. Another challenge is exposure. Even with protection, the temples are open to the elements. Climate change brings stronger weather, and that creates long-term risk. Conservation efforts slow the damage, but they cannot stop it completely. This creates a constant balance between access and survival. My own opinion about Ggantija is careful and neutral. I don't think we need to turn it into something mystical or supernatural to make it impressive. What humans achieved here is already enough. At the same time, I don't believe we can fully understand the beliefs behind it. Any explanation we give is filtered through modern thinking, and that has limits. What I respect most about Ggantija is the sense of patience it carries. The builders were not chasing quick results. They were creating something meant to last beyond their own lives. That idea feels rare today. It suggests a deep trust in the future and a strong connection to shared meaning. The present situation at the Ggantija Temples is stable but fragile. The site is well preserved, protected, and accessible to visitors who want to understand early human history. The experience is calm and thoughtful, not rushed. At the same time, erosion, weather, and limited access shape how people interact with the site. Ggantija is no longer a living temple, but it remains a powerful reminder of how early humans thought, believed, and built with purpose. Nilurallu stone alignment, India. Nilurallu sits quietly in the open fields of Karnataka, and that quiet is part of what makes it unsettling. There are no grand walls, no carved figures, no obvious signs telling you what to think. Just rows of tall stones rising from the ground, standing straight, weathered and patient. At first glance, it almost looks unfinished, like someone started a project and walked away. But the longer you stand there, the clearer it becomes that nothing here is accidental. The name Nilurallu means standing stones in the local language, and that description is honest but incomplete. These are not random rocks scattered by nature. They are carefully placed granite pillars, some over 12 feet tall, arranged in a deliberate pattern. The alignment stretches across the land in a way that immediately suggests planning. Someone measured this space. Someone decided exactly where each stone should stand. Most researchers place Nilurallu around 1500 BCE, possibly earlier. That puts it deep into the prehistoric period of the Indian subcontinent, long before written records in this region. The people who built this site left no texts, no names, no stories written in stone. All we have are the stones themselves, and the questions they raise. What draws the most attention is the way the stones interact with sunlight. On certain days of the year, especially around the solstices, the rising and setting sun lines up perfectly with specific stones. Shadows fall in straight paths. Light passes cleanly through narrow gaps. This is not something that happens by chance. It suggests the builders understood the movement of the sun across the sky and tracked it over long periods of time. This has led many to compare Nilurallu to Stonehenge, though the two sites are very different in style. Stonehenge feels enclosed, almost like a ring holding something in. Nilurallu feels open, stretched out, connected to the horizon. It does not pull you inward, it points you outward, toward the sky and the passing of time. The stones themselves are made of local granite, which is extremely hard. Shaping and raising these pillars without metal tools would have taken serious effort. Each stone had to be selected, cut, transported, and lifted upright into the ground. This would not have been a small group working for a few days. It would have required a community working together, likely over many years. Why would they do this? One idea is that Nilurallu functioned as a kind of solar observatory. By watching how light and shadow moved across the stones, people could mark important seasonal changes. It would have required a community working together, likely over many years. Why would they do this? One idea is that Nilurallu functioned as a kind of solar observatory. By watching how light and shadow moved across the stones, people could mark important seasonal changes. This would have been useful for farming, especially in a region dependent on monsoon cycles. Knowing when seasons were shifting could mean the difference between survival and hunger, but usefulness alone does not fully explain the effort. You do not need massive stone pillars to know when to plant crops. Smaller markers would work. The scale of Nilurallu suggests something more symbolic. This was not just about tracking time, it was about honoring it. There is also no evidence that Nilurallu was a burial site. No graves have been found directly connected to the stones. That separates it from many other megalithic sites in India, which are often linked to funerary practices. Nilurallu feels less like a place of death and more like a place of observation, gathering, and shared experience. Imagine standing there thousands of years ago. No buildings, no electric lights, just open land and a wide sky. As the sun rises exactly between two stones on a specific day, the moment would feel powerful, predictable, yet meaningful. It would reinforce the idea that the world follows patterns, and that humans can understand them if they pay close attention. That kind of knowledge brings status. Whoever understood these patterns likely held an important role in their community, not as rulers but as observers, guides, and keepers of seasonal knowledge. Nilurallu may have been a place where that knowledge was demonstrated publicly, not hidden away. What makes Nilurallu especially striking is how little it is talked about today. It does not appear in school textbooks. It is rarely mentioned outside academic circles. For a site that shows such clear understanding of astronomy and planning, it remains almost invisible. Visiting Nilurallu today is a very different experience from visiting famous ancient sites. There are no crowds, no ticket booths, no large visitor centers. The stones stand in open land, surrounded by fields and villages. This has its positives. You can walk freely among the stones. You can stand where you want, take your time, and feel the space without interruption. But this freedom comes with serious negatives. There is very little protection. Some stones have fallen, others lean slightly. Vegetation grows unchecked around the base of the pillars. In the past, a few stones were damaged or removed for local construction before the site's importance was fully understood. There are signs now and some basic fencing, but it feels minimal compared to how carefully sites like Stonehenge are managed. Nilurallu feels vulnerable. Weather, erosion, and human activity continue to affect it. Once a stone falls or breaks, the original alignment is lost forever. Another challenge is awareness. Many locals know the site exists, but not everyone understands its significance. Without strong public interest, funding and protection remain limited. This creates a risk that Nilurallu could slowly fade away, not through a single act of destruction, but through neglect. At the same time, there is something honest about how Nilurallu exists today. It is not overpolished. It has not been turned into a spectacle. The stones remain part of the landscape, not separated from it. That feels closer to how they were originally meant to exist. My own view of Nilurallu is balanced. I don't think it needs dramatic theories or supernatural explanations to be important. What the builders achieved using observation, memory, and cooperation is already impressive. At the same time, I think it deserves far more care than it currently receives. Respect does not always mean distance, but it does require protection. Nilurallu challenges the idea that advanced thinking only came from large cities or famous civilizations. Here, in a quiet part of southern India, people tracked the sun, shaped hard stone, and created a place that tied human life to the rhythm of the sky. They did it without writing, without machines, and without knowing anyone would remember them. The present situation at Nilurallu is uncertain. The site still stands, and many stones remain upright, which is a positive. Visitors can experience it freely, and the landscape around it is still open and natural, but erosion, lack of strong protection, and low public awareness threaten its future. Nilurallu today feels like a reminder not just of ancient knowledge, but of how easily that knowledge can be forgotten if it is not valued in the present. Puma Punku, Bolivia. Puma Punku sits high on the Bolivian plateau, where the air feels thin and the land stretches out in every direction. At first glance, it looks like a field of broken stone, scattered as if something once powerful fell apart and never recovered. But as you get closer, the chaos starts to make sense. The stones are not random, they are shaped, cut, and placed with intent. Whatever once stood here was planned with care. This site is part of the larger Tiwanaku complex, but Puma Punku feels different. Tiwanaku has walls and standing structures that still rise from the ground. Puma Punku looks dismantled, like a puzzle thrown across the earth. Many stones lie flat, some flipped upside down, others cracked in ways that suggest force rather than slow decay. The builders of Puma Punku lived around 500 to 1000 CE. This was not prehistoric, but it was still a world without iron tools or modern machines. They worked with andesite and sandstone, materials that are hard to shape even today. Yet the stones at Puma Punku show clean lines, sharp angles, and repeating shapes that look almost manufactured. One of the most famous features is the H-shaped blocks. These stones are nearly identical in size and form, as if they were produced from a single template. Grooves, slots, and drilled holes appear in precise positions. Some cuts are so straight they look machine-made, which has fueled endless speculation. But precision does not require modern technology. It requires skill, time, and deep understanding of material. The stone blocks were fitted together using copper clamps poured into carved channels to lock stones in place. This shows a clear understanding of joining techniques and structural strength. These builders were not guessing. They were solving engineering problems with the tools they had. Transporting the stones adds another layer of mystery. Some sandstone blocks came from quarries over 10 miles away. The andesite likely came from even farther. Moving stones weighing many tons across uneven land at high altitude would have been exhausting and dangerous. This again points to strong organization and shared purpose. So what was Puma Punku meant to be? Most evidence suggests it was a ceremonial gateway or ritual platform. Its name translates loosely to Gate of the Puma, which hints at symbolic importance. The layout suggests it once formed a grand entrance, possibly aligned with celestial events or tied to important ceremonies. Some theories claim the site was destroyed by a massive natural disaster or sudden collapse of the Tiwanaku culture. Others suggest it was deliberately dismantled or repurposed over time. There is no clear answer. What we do know is that by the time the Inca arrived centuries later, Puma Punku was already in ruins. The Inca themselves were impressed by the site. They considered it ancient even in their time. That alone says something. When a culture known for its stonework looks at a ruin and sees deep age and mastery, it carries weight. Modern visitors often arrive expecting something dramatic and intact, and some leave confused. There are no tall walls or complete buildings, just stone blocks spread across the ground. But that scattered state is part of the story. It forces you to imagine, rather than simply observe. Puma Punku has also suffered from exaggeration and misinformation. Some claims suggest lost civilizations or impossible technologies. While those stories attract attention, they often distract from the real achievement. What humans accomplished here, using stone tools, copper, and patience, is already remarkable. Today, the condition of Puma Punku is mixed. On the positive side, it is recognized as part of a protected heritage site. Basic paths guide visitors, and signs offer some explanation. The stones are no longer being removed for building, which happened in the past, but there are serious negatives. Many stones are exposed directly to weather. Wind, rain, and temperature changes continue to wear them down. Some blocks remain where they fell without support or shelter. The site feels open and vulnerable, especially compared to more tightly managed ancient monuments. Another issue is interpretation. Without clear reconstructions on site, many visitors struggle to understand what they are looking at. This can lead to disappointment or confusion. When understanding is weak, appreciation often follows. My own view of Puma Punku is grounded and neutral. I don't see it as evidence of lost advanced technology, but I do see it as proof of high-level skill and planning. The precision is real, and it deserves respect without exaggeration. At the same time, I feel the site would benefit from better preservation and clearer presentation. Puma Punku feels like a place caught between worlds, ancient enough to inspire mystery, but damaged enough to feel incomplete. Its power comes from what it suggests rather than what it shows. The present situation at Puma Punku is uncertain but hopeful. The stones still lie where they fell, and many are in stable condition. Visitors can walk among them and see the details up close, which is a rare experience, but exposure, limited protection, and ongoing weathering remain serious concerns. Puma Punku today stands as a reminder of human skill, cultural loss, and the fragile line between preservation and disappearance.